solving rational equations. Rational again meaning fraction. So we're going to be solving equations that are going to have fractions in them. So meaning that they might be x over 4. You might have a 4 on the bottom. Or it might mean there's an x on the bottom. We don't actually know yet. It could be either. Could be both. Before we do that though, it's good to just remind ourselves to do, I think I have 4 here examples of solving. So we got some brackets in here. We can multiply the 3 in to get a 3x minus 6 minus 4 equals x minus 5. Now I can go 3x, the negative 6 and negative 4 will get us a negative 10 to x minus 5. At this point we can bring the x over to the left here by minusing it. So we'll minus it over to the left. And then I'll also just add this 10 over to the right. So in 2 steps I move the x's over onto one side and the numbers over to the other. So 3x minus x is a 2x. Negative 5 plus 10 is going to be 5. And then I can divide by 2, divide by 2. So x is equal to 2.5. Now let's go over to letter B here. Okay, so first thing we can do is bring in these brackets here, bring in the 4. So we've got a 5 plus 4x squared, 4 times 4 is 16, equals 5x squared plus 1 minus 2x squared. So whenever I see x squareds, I like to get them all onto one side. If there's an x squared and just an x, then I want to bring everything to one side and factor or use the quadratic formula. But I see an x squared, I see an x squared, I see an x squared. So I'm actually not going to bring everything to one side because there's no just x to the 1s. There's no linear x's here. Well, let's first combine like terms. So we have a 5 and we have a negative 16. So that's going to be a negative 11. So we have a 4x squared minus the 11. And then we have a 5x squared and a 2x squared, which is a 3x squared plus 1. Now I'm going to bring the 3x squared over to the other side to get it with the 4x squared. And at the same time, I guess I'll just bring this 11 over to this side. So 4x squared minus 3x squared is just a 1x squared, or just an x squared. And 1 plus 11 is 12. To get rid of a square, we're going to square root. So we'll have x is equal to, whoops, there we go. X is equal to square root of 12. And whenever you are squaring to cancel square rooting to cancel a square, and we're solving here, so whenever we're solving and we're trying to find out what x is and we square root to cancel that square, you have to remember to add a plus or minus. Now normally that would be good, but the expectations have changed a little bit now for us. 12 can be broken down to 4 times 3. 4 can be broken down to 2 times 2. Bring down the 3. So there's a pair of 2's that can come on out. So the 2 comes out and the 3 is left over. So technically this is a plus or minus 2 square root of 3. Alright, let's go onto this one. So it says, last unit, or the last couple units, we learned to solve equations that had an x squared and an x using factoring. So we're going to do that here. Solve the following equations. Notice that there's x squareds in it, and there's also just x's. The first thing I want to do, because there's an x squared and an x, I'm going to bring everything over to one side. So I'll bring this 7x squared over by subtracting it onto this one. Because I want to bring everything over, I might as well minus the 2x right now as well to do with that. And I'll minus the 7 to go with that. So 8 minus 7 is going to be 1, so we have just an x squared. And then we have a negative 1x and a negative 2x, which is a negative 3x. And negative 11 and negative 7 is going to be negative 18 is equal to, well, we've removed everything, so 0. And then we can factor this. So 18 will be 9 and 2 or 6 and 3. Now 6 and 3 will work and needs to be negative. So my diagonals here are negative 6x and positive 3. So negative 6x and positive 3x. And if you added those together, you'd get a negative 3x, which is my middle term. So I know I factored this right. So we got an x plus a 3 right there, and then x minus 6 is equal to 0. And now you can have two equations. You can have x plus 3 equals 0, or an x minus 6 is equal to 0. There's two different options. So you can bring this 3 over by subtracting it, and you'll get negative 3. And then you can add the 6 over, and you can get 6. So we have solved this equation. X equals negative 3 and x equals 6 are our two answers for A. And now for B, I notice that there's x's here. There's also x squareds. So because of that, I'm going to bring everything over to the right. Maybe before I do that, though, I'll combine like terms. So there's a 7x and a negative 3. So I've got 40x squared minus 4 is equal to 7 minus 3, which is 4x plus 8. Now I can bring this over. I can bring the negative 4x over here. It has nothing to go with, so I'll just kind of put it here. And I can minus the 8 over, and I'll put that 8 with this 4 here. So on the right hand side, I've eliminated everything, giving myself a 0. I have a 40x squared, and I'm not subtracting anything. I've got that negative 4x, but it can't subtract from anything, so I'll just leave it there. And the negative 4 and the negative 8 are alike, so I can combine them and get negative 12. Now, I could factor this, but one of the things that I'll notice is that there is a 4 that can be taken out of all of these. So I'll take out a 4, take a 4 out of there, 4 out of there, 4 out of there. I get a 10x squared, just a 1x, or just an x, and a negative 3. So now when I factor it, I can put x and x, 5 and 2, and then negative 3. So 3 and 1 of them has to be negative. I think that one does, because then this diagonal right here, that would be a negative 6x, and this diagonal over here would be a positive 5x. And if you put those together, you get negative 1x, and that is my middle term, negative x. So this equals 0. So I have 4, and then I have a 5x minus 3, and a 2x plus 1 is equal to 0. So this 4, I can't make it 0 because there's no x's. I'm looking just for the x's. 5x minus 3 is one of them. That can equal 0. Or 2x plus 1 is another one. That can equal 0. And these ones aren't as easy to see, so I'll do a little bit of math here. I'll add the 3 over to this side to get 5x equals 3. And then I could divide by 5 to get x equals 3/5. It's hard to say that. And then same with the other side, 2x plus 1. I'll minus the 1 from both sides. So 2x equals negative 1. And then I can divide by 2. So x equals negative 1/2. And those are my two answers. So notice here, none of these questions, these 4 questions are fractions. However, they are exactly what we need to be learning in order to do the next question. So we'll start those in just a moment.